He's even trembling,
mocked the eagle girl.
He adorable?
Ren wasn't trembling from fear. He was trembling from frustration. He could see their beast's flaws so clearly. The irregular mana pattern in the eagle's feathers, the instability in the other boy's green scales. Useless knowledge when you're about to be beaten. But maybe there was something useful in there after all. Knowledge flowed through Ren's mind as the tiger boy maintained his grip. A spirit tiger at iron rank granted 30% strength and 10% in all other attributes. At silver 3 those numbers would multiply. 180% strength, 60% in the rest. The gap between beasts widened dramatically with each rank. But now at iron the difference wasn't so overwhelming. Ren himself, though thin after his latest growth spurt, had a healthy constitution thanks to good nutrition. He wasn't from a rich family, but his parents always put him first and were cooks. His 10% increase in physical strength wasn't insignificant when it came to moving his light body with ease.
What do you know about beasts, rotting boy?
The tiger boy raised his fist, his feline features accentuated by rage.
Your fungus isn't even a real beast.
The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed. A spirit tiger's attack pattern always started the same way, a direct punch to the face. Ren could even understand the boy's body positioning before the attack, so he pushed up against the hand holding his shirt. When the other hand cut through the air trying to punch where his head had been an instant before, Ren couldn't help but smile.
Is that all?
He mocked, his heart pounding hard. The boy with green scales who had been watching silently narrowed his eyes.
It was just luck, Jin. He's just trying to provoke you.
Ren shot back.
Can't even manage to hit the weakest one with your superior beast? Maybe mushrooms aren't so pathetic after all.
A tense silence fell over the group. It wasn't just Jin who felt insulted now. Everyone who had belittled Ren for his spore looked at him with growing fury. Was the rotting boy suggesting their beasts weren't better than the miserable spore?
Shut up.
Jin finally roared, his wounded pride transforming into rage.
I'll show you what a spirit tiger can do.
Ren moved by pure reflex, recognizing the pattern once again, his lighter body responding with agility that surprised even himself.
That's enough.
The boy with green scales, who until then had only watched, activated his quick movement ability and put his foot behind Ren. Ren stumbled, losing his precarious balance. Ren noticed the attack patterns again, but knowledge only helped if you had time to use it. This time there was no time to react. The fist connected with devastating force. Jin's extra 30% translated into a pure impact.
Who's pathetic now?
Jin growled, but his words sounded more like those of a hurt child than a real threat. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed weakly. All that knowledge and still, the fist rose again. This time Jin was going to use his tiger's real ability. That could seriously hurt Ren.
You're going to learn to keep your mouth shut, fungus.
The carriage door burst open, flooding the interior with bright light. The carriage had stopped, and the driver opened the door for them to get out.
What's going on here?
Jin's fist stopped centimeters from Ren's. The driver warned them that fighting would cost them points if the teachers saw, but he didn't do more than that, though it was enough to prevent the worst. The group descended and the driver left, but before Ren could get away they surrounded him again. With nowhere to escape, the tiger boy grabbed his shirt and dragged him toward a hidden side of the building.
Now then, rotting boy.
He smiled, his fangs gleaming.
No one's going to interrupt us while we teach you something about respecting your superiors.
His companions formed a circle, blocking any escape route. The mushrooms in Ren's hair flickered nervously. He would have to use his knowledge to try to get out of this. Maybe a good hit could help him escape. This Jin kid didn't have a defensive beast, so a punch would hurt him. The problem was the lizard boy.
Look how his little mushrooms are trembling again.
Mocked the eagle girl.
Are they as scared as he is?
Ren wasn't trembling from fear still. He was trembling from excitement. Could he prove he wasn't so far below them? The fist rose again.
I'm going to teach you why you shouldn't stick your rotting nose in.
3 against 1?
The voice cut through the air like an ice knife. Luna Starweaver emerged from the shadows, her wolf materializing beside her like a nightmare made real. Her blue hair rippled with its own energy, and her blue eyes. The tiger boy dropped Ren as if he was too hot to touch.
We were just teaching the rotting boy some manners,
he muttered, backing away.
Manners?
Luna arched an eyebrow.
3 beasts with silver potential against the weakest of all. How pathetic.
He started it.
Protested the eagle girl.
He said things about our beasts.
And that makes you feel threatened?
Luna's voice was soft but sharp.
A silver rank beast threatened by the weakest of all? That makes you sound more pathetic than him.
The tiger boy straightened, trying to recover some dignity.
It's not fair that you...
That I what?
Luna took a step forward.
That I use my advantage against you? Like you were doing a moment ago? Would you feel good if I did?
The silence that followed made the hierarchy clear.
Get out of here.
Luna ordered.
All of you. Get out.
Luna ordered.
All of you.
This isn't over, rotting boy.
Jin growled.
We'll see you later.
While the bullies fled from Luna, Ren gently touched the mushrooms in his hair. The knowledge they provided was worth every taunt, every threat, though that didn't make things easier. As the others hurried to obey, Luna looked at Ren for a moment. There was no sympathy in her gaze, only a kind of calculating curiosity. Or so Ren thought, still.
Thank you.
Ren said when the others had left.
for helping me.
Luna looked at him as if he were a particularly annoying equation she needed to solve.
I didn't do it for you.
Her voice was cold, practical.
I did it because I dislike those who abuse their power. 3 silver beasts against the weakest of all.
She shook her head.
It's pathetic.
Her shadow wolf watched her with its bright eyes, tilting its head as she continued.
You'd do well to stay away from trouble. And frankly, you should consider keeping your spore separate from your body. Those mushrooms on your head only make you a more visible target.
I won't.
Ren's response was immediate, firm.
Spore isn't weak, and I'm gonna prove it.
Luna raised an eyebrow, studied him for a moment.
Interesting.
She murmured, more to herself than to him. She remembered this boy from Invocation Day. How could she forget the only one with a gray egg among so many bright colors, almost all children of rich and powerful families? Luna hadn't understood why someone who could only buy that type of egg was at this school. The terrible result was even more unexpected. He had been so visibly depressed that day, so defeated, but now there was something different about him. Not just the luminescent mushrooms in his hair, but something in his posture, in his eyes. He looked more bright, and she didn't mean the mushrooms on his head.
Psst, delusion or courage.
She murmured, more to herself than to him.
Very interesting.
She turned to leave, but paused for a moment.
We'll see if that confidence of yours lasts at least the first year.
She said over her shoulder, her wolf vanishing into the shadows along with her.
Though I doubt it.
Ren watched her disappear before he could ask what was so interesting. The mushrooms in his hair pulsing softly, but he didn't need her to believe in him. He didn't need anyone to believe, not yet. The Imperial Academy rose before him, its towers casting long shadows over the city. The Imperial Academy's great hall was impressive. Marble columns veined with mana lines rose toward a vaulted ceiling where carved beasts seemed to move in the shadows. The new students gathered in orderly rows, their fused beasts creating a spectacle of colors and transformations. Except for Ren, of course. The mushrooms in his hair stood out like a gray stain amid so much brilliance, though he was the one who glowed literally.
Welcome.
The director's voice resonated through the hall. He was a tall, thin man with a fused gold beast, a royal phoenix whose golden feathers intertwined with his white hair.
To the most prestigious institution of beast cultivation and evolution.
Ren watched fascinated. His new knowledge allowed him to see some of the phoenix's mana patterns, the complexity of its evolution, though everything related to gold-rank beast cultivation remained nebulous in his mind.
Over the next 8 years, you will learn not only to strengthen your beasts, but to understand the very nature of the bond between tamer and creature. Some of you will reach silver rank. A few, very few, might go beyond.
His gaze paused briefly on Luna, whose shadow wolf had gold potential, then almost imperceptibly on Ren.
However,
He continued,
rank isn't everything. History is full of tamers who achieved the impossible with seemingly weak beasts. Everything depends on your dedication, your understanding, and above all, your willingness to see beyond the obvious.
The whispers began immediately. Everyone knew it was a diplomatic lie, a way to console those who, like Ren, had bad luck in their invocation. Of course, to Ren, the irony of the message sounded different.
The professors will assign your dormitories and schedules. Classes begin tomorrow at first light.
The director paused.
One last thing. At the Imperial Academy, we value individual progress, but also contribution to society. We don't reward direct abuse based on beast rank. Social levels depend on each other, so you'll lose points for misbehavior, but gain points for contributing. Everyone has potential, don't waste it.
This time, his gaze clearly stopped on the group that had beaten and threatened Ren in the carriage. The tiger boy shifted uncomfortably. As the students began to disperse, Ren noticed something curious. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed with a different rhythm near certain areas of the hall, as if responding to a powerful stimulus beneath the floor. Knowledge flowed through his mind. Perhaps the academy had indeed been built on ancient ruins. Ruins where he might find the runes he needed without buying them if he was lucky.
First-year students this way.
A professor's voice interrupted his thoughts.
It's time to assign dormitories.
Ren followed the crowd, but his mind was already working. The academy held more secrets than it appeared, and he had 8 years to discover them. Room 15 Grey Wing, announced the professor, a trace of pity in her voice as she handed Ren the key. The name was a cruel euphemism. It wasn't really gray, it was where they sent students with limited potential. Though even there, Ren was a special case. He was truly the bearer of a failed gray egg. They hadn't had one in decades. The dormitory was spacious but austere, designed for 4 students. His roommates were already there. Min, a thin boy with a water snake, Taro, more robust with a digger beetle, and Lu, tall and quiet with a night bat. All iron-rank beasts, yes, but at least they had evolution potential up to bronze. Or that's what everyone believed. But Ren could see their cultivation roots up to silver 3, like all other beasts.
The mushroom boy.
Min smiled when Ren entered. There was no malice in his voice, just a kind of resigned camaraderie.
I guess it makes sense they put us together.
Ren dropped his bag on the last available bed, aware of the curious glances toward the mushrooms in his hair and the bruise on his eye.
Does it do anything besides glow?
Asked Taro. Ren hesitated. After the incident in the carriage, he didn't want to draw more attention to himself.
It gives a 10% increase to my strength.
he said simply.
And it has something good, I don't need lamps?
More pitying looks, an uncomfortable silence followed his words. The others exchanged glances, the kind you give someone who won't accept a painful truth.
Hey,
Min tried to sound cheerful.
it's not so bad.
Taro added.
Not everything is about pure power.
You're right, it's not so bad.
Lou said from his corner.
I'm a second-year student, but I failed 2 units. That's why I'm still in this dormitory. My first year here taught me that initial rank isn't everything. My bat seemed useless at first, but with the right training.
While Lou shared advice about life in the Grey Wing, Ren observed his companions. He could clearly see how Min's snake needed fresh water instead of salt water in its crystals to develop its true potential. How Taro's beetle needed to be fed processed crystals during a specific moon phase to advance along the correct path and not mature. Perhaps, he thought, when they knew each other better, when they trusted each other, he could share some of his knowledge. At least enough to help them. While unpacking, the mushrooms in his hair pulsed with that strange rhythm again. There was something under the Grey Wing, something ancient. Maybe being in the worst dormitory wasn't so bad after all, especially if what he sensed was correct, and the ancient ruins extended right beneath their feet.
Liu,
Ren approached the second-year student after the others began organizing their things.
where can I get discarded monster parts? Cores, beast remains, materials, bronze crystals, and...
Liu stopped organizing his trunk and looked at Ren with both pity and amusement.
Straight to the point, huh?
He sighed.
Look, a few years ago, the Academy distributed resources equitably. Every student received what they needed to try evolving their beast, regardless of potential rank, to search for possible hidden cultivation paths.
He sat on his bed, his night bat fluttering restlessly above his head.
Everything changed. Now it works on a merit system. You have to prove you're worth investing in.
Liu grimaced.
Basic support is miserable. Barely enough for decent beasts to reach bronze rank with great effort. 1 measly crystal daily.
But I need those materials.
Ren insisted.
Especially venomous fungi, bronze parts, and runes with.
Runes?
Liu let out a dry laugh.
Those are extremely expensive. They only give them to elite beasts, ones with real potential, and only for passing from silver to gold. The rest have to earn them with results.
He looked at the mushrooms in Ren's hair.
No offense, but nobody's going to waste resources like that on a spore.
Why not?
Because experiments with fungi always fail. Always. The school keeps records of every attempt. The best result was a mature fungus that gave a 20% strength increase, and it cost more resources than evolving 3 normal beasts to silver.
Ren clenched his fists. If Liu knew what he knew now, if he could explain the true evolution paths.
But there are other ways to get resources.
Liu murmured.
There's the teaching unit system.
He continued.
If you manage to pass all 5 units this semester, they'll promote you from Iron to Bronze 1. Instead of 1 crystal daily, you'd receive 10.
10 times more?
Ren's eyes widened.
At Silver 1, it would be 100.
Liu gave a dry laugh.
But that's not until 4th semester, and only if you pass the first 3 without failing any units.
He looked at the mushrooms in Ren's hair.
Though honestly, I doubt you'll achieve much in the battle unit. And cultivation.
He shook his head.
What happens if I fail?
Every 3 failed units, you lose a point. If you lose 3 points...
Liu made a cutting gesture with his hand.
Goodbye to all support. The most you can do is try to pass 3 units and avoid getting expelled from the system.
Ren nodded slowly, processing the information. The system was brutal, but the rewards.
Listen.
Liu leaned forward.
I'm telling you this because I like you and honestly feel a bit sorry for you. Don't get your hopes up. Focus on surviving the 8 years. Learn what you can, but don't expect miracles. If I were you...
Liu lowered his voice.
I'd focus on recovering part of what tuition cost. The fees are high, but with enough work in the gathering zones, you could get them to double your resources and recover at least a 5th part in the next 8 years.
Double? How does that work?
Ren asked. If I were you...
Liu lowered his voice.
I'd focus on recovering part of what our tuition cost. The fees are high, but with enough work in the gathering zones, you could get them to double your resources and recover at least a 5th part in the next 8 years.
Double? How does that work?
Ren asked.
Tomorrow they'll come to check our belongings.
Ren visibly tensed.
Relax.
Liu smiled at his reaction.
It's not what you think. They'll just register the value of the stuff you brought with you.
Why?
For what you just asked about. The Academy doubles the value of everything you get on your own in designated zones.
Liu explained.
It's through a government subsidy system.
The mushrooms in Ren's hair glowed with renewed interest.
Everything I get.
Everything you obtain with your own hands, yes. Things from your parents or inherited wealth don't count. Only what you gather or process here yourself. It's like a performance scholarship. The better collector you are, the more support you receive. The king has always incentivized people who go out to gather stuff.
So if I find valuable materials,
The Academy matches their value.
Lu confirmed.
That's why they record what you bring at the start, to know what you obtained afterward on your own.
Lu lay back on his bed, his bat fluttering restlessly.
But like I said, don't get your hopes up with that creature.
He murmured. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed softly, as if responding to his growing determination.
what if you're wrong?
He asked.
What if there's more to spores than everyone believes?
Lu looked at him for a long moment.
Then,
He said finally.
you'll have to find a way to prove it. But, I warn you, the Academy doesn't waste resources on empty hopes and promises.
They aren't empty promises, thought Ren. I just need a chance to prove it. And as that thought took shape, the mushrooms in his hair pulsed again, reminding him of the secret that lay beneath their feet. Perhaps there was a way to achieve both things, obtain the materials he needed and secure his place in the Academy. Across the hall, in another dormitory, the conversation about the Academy's policies continued.
Did you hear that?
Min flopped onto his bed, his water snake materializing like a blue ribbon around his neck.
They double what we find and 100 crystals daily at silver. With that I could.
Don't get your hopes up.
Taro muttered.
First, you have to get there.
Oh, come on.
Min smiled, turning toward Taro, who was quietly organizing his things.
Don't tell me you haven't dreamed about it. Imagine what you could do with your beetle in the mines.
Taro just mumbled something inaudible and continued meticulously arranging his tools.
Min has a point.
Ren intervened, noticing how Taro's shoulders tensed whenever someone mentioned his beast.
Even beasts that everyone thinks are weak could.
Exactly.
Min sat up suddenly, his snake undulating with enthusiasm.
My water snake is iron rank, but I can study a ton and break the mold like the director said. The point is, we all have a chance, right?
He got up and walked to Taro, putting an arm around his shoulders.
Even Mr. Silent here. His digger beetle will be the sensation when it evolves, right, Taro?
Taro blushed slightly, but a small smile appeared on his lips.
If it evolves,
he murmured, but there was a touch of hope in his voice.
Course it will.
Min turned to Ren.
And your spore? Well, at least it glows pretty.
Min!
Lu sighed from his bed.
Stop bothering everyone and finish unpacking. Tomorrow's the belongings check and your area looks like a disaster zone.
It's an organized disaster.
Min protested, but started tidying anyway, his snake helping move things with its tail. Taro returned to his silent organizing, but Ren noticed his movements were more relaxed now. Min's enthusiasm seemed to have that effect on people. The mushrooms in Ren's hair glowed softly as he watched his roommates. Maybe the gray wing was perfect for him after all. Later, as the roommates settled in for the night, Ren lay awake thinking. That night, while his roommates slept, Ren reviewed his options in the darkness, the mushrooms in his hair providing a faint glow, dim to avoid disturbing his companions. Getting materials on his own would be difficult, even knowing exactly what he needed, if they were as expensive as Liu said. Obtaining them without Academy support could take years.
And meanwhile,
he murmured to himself,
my parents will continue with the ritual day after day. Get their runes first and then.
No, he needed to be more efficient. The Academy had a merit system, and though everyone expected him to fail, that could play to his advantage. Nobody expected anything from a spore, so any progress, however small, would draw attention. If he could demonstrate even a fraction of his spore's potential, if he could win even moderate Academy support with the systems Liu mentioned.
Limited resources are better than no resources,
he whispered, remembering how his father always said that in the kitchen, even leftovers could become a feast if you knew how to use them. He would have to do both. Meet the Academy's expectations to gain some support, while searching on his own for the rest of what he needed and doubling it. It would be slower than having full access to resources, but faster than trying to do everything alone. The mushrooms pulsed softly, and Ren felt again that strange resonance with something under the dormitory.
One step at a time,
he reminded himself.
First, prove this student is worth at least the support.
Tomorrow will be the first classes, his first chance to show that the
rotting boy
might not be as useless as everyone thought. He closed his eyes, but his mind kept working, plotting plans, calculating possibilities. 8 years was a long time if you knew exactly what to do with each day. The classroom was circular, with seats arranged in ascending levels. Ren found himself in the same group as the tiger boy Jin and his friends, who shot threatening glances at him from a distance. Fortunately, Taro, one of his roommates, was also there, though he had arrived late and sat on the other side of the classroom as there was no other place. Luna was there too, her shadow wolf barely visible as an ethereal silhouette beside her.
In this first semester,
announced Professor Wei, a robust man with a silver rank 2 manticore manifesting in silver patterns across his skin.
Student groups are random. Afterward, you'll be reorganized according to your performance. So pay attention if you don't want to lose your place. I'll begin the class.
Ren observed the patterns on the professor's skin. The manticore had been cultivated primarily with random daylight. There were details suggesting other unused techniques. Wei began drawing a diagram on the board.
The basic principles of cultivation have been studied for hundreds of years.
Professor Wei began.
Every successful method follows 3 fundamental phases and has a proven maximum duration.
He drew 3 circles on the board.
First, mana absorption. The beast must receive energy appropriate to its nature. Second, processing. How that energy is transformed in the crystal so the mana is suitable. And finally, fixation. How that power is stabilized and made permanent.
Wei made a significant pause.
Something crucial you must understand. No effective cultivation method lasts more than 6 months. This is a fact proven through countless studies. The most common methods last 150 days, and although some charlatans propose longer processes, the evidence is clear. After 6 months, any cultivation attempt becomes inefficient or downright useless.
Ren shifted uneasily in his seat. He knew why this perception was also wrong. All methods without exception were 100 days, but...
Luna Starweaver.
Wei pointed.
Could you explain how these phases apply in practice?
In practice?
Luna stood, her shadow wolf manifesting in her like a dark silhouette with its own life.
First, we must obtain the appropriate mana crystals. These are processed, in the case of shadow beasts like mine, under moonlight. Then they're sealed with specific techniques before the beast can absorb them.
Correct.
Wei nodded.
The type of crystal, the processing method, in your case moonlight, and the sealing determine the final effectiveness when the beast absorbs it and lead it to the correct path of its potential.
Excuse me, Professor,
Ren couldn't contain himself.
but that's not entirely accurate. About crystal processing.
Silence fell like a slab. Even the tiger boy seemed to forget his hostility, too surprised by the rotting boy's audacity.
Oh.
Wei turned slowly and looked at him with evident annoyance.
The student with the spore has something to contribute about cultivation?
Contained laughter.
Mana crystals must be processed differently than broad cases like moonlight. They need to be more specific. For example, Luna's wolf crystals shouldn't just be at night, but on a night with 7 moons. Another example would be your mana core, which could have benefited from crystals processed under the first light of dawn. It would have reached silver 3 instead of...
Enough.
Wei cut him off.
I see we have another expert who thinks he knows more than generations of research. Young man, I studied for 30 years before cultivating this manticore. We reached silver rank 2 following methods proven by generations. To suggest that...
Wei straightened, his golden patterns glowing with irritation.
Points less for the student. What's your name?
Patenter, sir.
More laughter, now open.
Not that it matters much.
Wei smiled maliciously.
I doubt a spore will obtain many resources from the academy anyway.
But...
Enough.
Wei cut him off again.
I understand some students try to compensate for their limitations with extravagant theories. But in this class, we'll stick to proven methods. The texts have been proven by generations.
Wei frowned.
To suggest they're wrong based on what exactly? Readings in a story.
Laughter filled the classroom. The tiger boy and his friends practically glowed with satisfaction. Luna, however, watched the scene with intense interest. Ren clenched his fists under his desk. Not only had he lost points he didn't even have yet, he could lose the opportunity to gain the support he so desperately needed. Reaching 100 points in this class by the end of the semester would now be a bit more difficult. I need a way to prove I'm right, he thought, while the mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly. Something irrefutable, something not even Professor Wei can deny. The answer had to be somewhere, and he had to find it before his opportunity to obtain resources vanished completely. Ren sank in his seat. He hadn't expected wrong knowledge to be so deeply rooted. How could he prove he was right when everything they knew contradicted the truth?
Let's continue.
Wei returned to the board.
As I was saying, basic cultivation follows simple rules.
This was going to be harder than Ren thought. The rest of the class was torture. Every time Wei asked a question, he deliberately ignored Ren's raised hand. When he finally did call on him, it was only to say,
See, this is how you answer, with established facts, not absurd theories. As we can see in historical records.
Wei continued, pointing to Taro.
The digger beetle is a classic example of a beast with mediocre natural limits. None has surpassed bronze rank in the more than 500 years we have of species documentation.
Ren saw how Taro's shoulders slumped. His roommate had a ton of books. He seemed to have been studying cultivation methods at home, hoping to find some exception. He had thought about telling him what he knew, but decided to wait until he knew him better. However, now, Ren straightened in his seat. This was his opportunity.